I noticed that in the philosophy field, there's a lot of debate about free will. Do you believe that we have a free will? Human beings have a free will?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was built into the nature of humanity. I think when God created Adam and Eve, once you have the capacity to say no, to negate a consecrated order that you know to be immutable, that you know to be non-negotiable and categorical, and you go against it, you are exercising your free will. So I do think that we have a free will. We know the difference between right and wrong. We know the differences between or among viewpoints that correspond to reality. And I know that we can choose to explore the truth and pursue the truth, or we can consciously choose to live in denial of the truth and make ourselves into these mini gods, which is part of what I did when I was an atheist. The world bent according to my will. And it was always about my will and what I wanted. I didn't lose my moral compass entirely, but I certainly think that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if human beings have a free will, I've noticed that human beings are no good, that they're evil. There's nothing in human being that is good. If human beings have a free will, why can't we be good and do good? Human beings only do evil. Why can't we will ourselves to be good and do good?
Well, these are some heavy theological questions. One answer that comes to mind is that we live in a very depraved, I call it the age of depravity. Our society is completely morally bankrupt and depraved. And bad behavior sells. People are attracted sometimes to the lowest common denominator. You just look at hip hop music and the lyrics that constitute hip hop, and just look at the vulgarity of our culture. It's far easier to fall from grace, and it's far easier to live according to the lowest common denominator that is inside of one than it is to build what I would call an aspirational identity where you aim for moral perfection. Because that takes a commitment, it takes responsibility, it takes repeated efforts. And just as it's easier to smash a beautiful vase than it is to repair one, or to make one, I should say, it's far easier to be evil. It's far easier to be bad. It's far easier to just succumb to the lowest visceral, feral aspects of human nature than to become something noble and heroic. That's too time consuming. People feel like
no, but if you have a free will, I've noticed, and there are people who they love their misery, they love their hell, they don't want out. But there are those who want out of their hell, and they go to Christianity, or they go to Judaism, or Allahu Akbar, or somewhere, right? And because they want to be good and do good, but even going into those religions, they're still evil. They still are no good. And even though they accept Jesus, they pray and they cry and they read the Bible and whatever Bible, and they're still no good. Why can't those people will themselves to be good and do good if they have a free will?
Well, a couple of things. The kind of sacrifice that you have to make in your life, the delayed gratification, the impulse to not gravitate towards vice is tremendously difficult, especially, I must say this, especially in a culture that does not recognize or reward goodness, virtue, meritocracy. It rewards victimology. It rewards those who have a victim status. It rewards those who have an aggrievement mentality. It rewards the lowest common denominator. Just look at somebody like Kim Kardashian, one of the most talentless human beings that probably is on TV. And just look at the extent to which people treat celebrities as if they're moral agents. They're not moral agents. They're reproducible items. or images. And so I think when there are two things. One is we don't have a culture that fosters goodness. We don't have a culture, unless you were to become a Christian nation. We don't have a culture that fosters and rewards and recognizes what one is trying to become, which is good, what one is aspiring towards, which is wholesomeness. What we have is a culture that rewards vice. And so people I think, Reverend, one of the comments I would make is that people are naturally lazy.
You can call me Jesse, yeah.
Or Jesse, I think one of the things is that people are naturally lazy.
Yeah.
And laziness reinforces your vice. Laziness reinforces your faults. Laziness allows you to remain rooted in your rottenness. And so there are very few incentives in our culture that says, look, and just look at DEI. What does DEI reward? Mediocrity. Slothfulness.
Well, because of time, do human beings know they have a free will?
Oh, I think they know. I think they
But for those people, if they know they have a free will, for those people who want to be good and do good, but there are people who do want it, even though most don't find it. Why can't they will themselves to be good and do good for those who really want it?
Because I think willing is not a sufficient condition for being good. I think willing is the first step in initiating a process or a series of behaviors, of actions that cultivate character over time. The other thing, too, is I think, Jesse, is that goodness is very fragile. The analogy I like to use is like a plant. You have a beautiful plant, and if it's not in amazing soil that's conducive to its growth, if it's not exposed to sunlight, if it's not watered by someone or from the rain, then the plant dies. So beauty also is a very fragile characteristic. And we do live in a culture that seems to neglect goodness. It's very difficult to be good in our society because there are too many forces in our society that institutionally rewards laziness, vulgarity, coarseness, slothfulness. So even those who are willing, willing is not enough. You can sit there and you can will all you want. You have to get off your butt and do the hard work of cultivating a moral character over time and being very vigilant and very watchful over yourself and over your sensibilities and your habits. And it means also dehabituating yourself from bad habits that one has grown accustomed to.
Where did you get the idea that we have a free will? Where did you get that from?
I learned it in philosophy, but also from my own just Christian upbringing that God creates man with a free will.
Well, as smart as you are, and other than Elon Musk, I don't think there's any competition other but you and Elon Musk, right? Why can't you will yourself to have perfect peace right now? To never have another sad or emotional thought or feeling, to never be depressed, to never worry, to never be angry, to never be lonely, to never have fear, inward fear. Why can't you, if you have a free will, why can't you will yourself right now to be free of all that?
Well, the one of the reasons I wrote the book Letters to God is because it was like a workbook for me to literally will myself into that process. I don't think it's something that can happen overnight, especially when you've developed bad moral habits, right? Dehabituating yourself. So I am a work in progress. I am someone who's trying to will myself and not just will myself, but to follow through on what I'm willing, which are certain actions and how I comport myself in the world, how I approach people, and how I approach God, and that is a commitment that I intend to honor. That is a commitment that I intend to spend the rest of my life trying to achieve.
God said that of ourselves we can do nothing, of ourselves we know nothing, We know not what we want. We know not what to even ask for. Why would he say that if we had a free will? Why would he tell us we don't if we had one? We can't even change ourselves. We have no control of anything. And if God said it, why would we want to believe we have a free will when he said we don't?
I don't know that he says we don't. I think
Well, he said we can't do nothing of ourselves, right?
Not by ourselves.
And of ourselves, we know nothing.
Well, we need the aid. We need the help of God.
But if we had the free will, why do we need his help?
Because we're finite, because we're mortal, because we're also fallen creatures, and we are fallible creatures. We're not infallible. We're bound to make mistakes. And I do believe that there is just in the same way that somebody can go to a gym and over time work out and develop muscles and a healthy body, there is a moral workout practice that we can inhabit in our lives with the help of God, and with the aid of our free will. That is, we have to choose to want to be good. When you said that lots of people are willing and they sit there willing, I'm not sure how authentic and strong they are in that willing process, in the sense that they want to have their cake and they want to eat it as well. And you can't have both, right? So you can't just sit there and will to be good, but are not doing the attendant actions and reforming your behavior in a manner that's consistent with your willing. So there's an inconsistency there. Lots of people are willing all sorts of things and they want to be good, but they're not doing the corresponding actions that over time lead to what you probably would call a morally perfect character, which, or to be fulfilled, or to never be sad, or never to be alone again. The sort of commitment that is required and the kind of vigilance, again, I go back to the word vigilance, that one has to exercise, are just things that people don't want to commit themselves to, because you have to give up a lot. You have to sacrifice a lot to be a good person.
Amazing.
There are a lot of,
Amazing.